North of the city of Chicago, along the Des Plaines River, the floodwaters continue to rise. In Gurnee, parts of Route 41 and 132 are closed. School has been canceled indefinitely. CLTV's Frances Bragiel is in Gurnee with more.
While the rain has subsided for now, meteorologists say that is expected to change later this evening. Village officials say that residents so far have used 90 tons of sand. But as you can see behind me, that sand hasn't done much for some. Residents in Gurnee have been digging and stuffing for days now, all in an effort to somehow keep the Des Plaines River at bay.
It's coming up real fast. It wasn't like that yesterday. It's coming into the parking lot, so we want to get it done and get it going.
Village officials say as of this morning, the river registered at 11.1 feet. That's 4 feet above the flood level, turning the land where homes and businesses reside into swampland.
Right now it's kind of a pain in the, and it's just, you got to live with it. It's nothing, you can't do much about it.
We've got all 4 meets here too, the whole room now.
Richard Brocki lives a short distance from the Des Plaines River. He bought his home 3 years ago without knowing, he says, about the flood of '86. Water's been pumping out of his basement since Sunday.
My freezer, 2 freezer gone, washer, dryer, all of the furnace, everything's gone.
While the river isn't expected to crest until early Wednesday morning, this is what a good portion of Gurnee looks like now. Some residents say they don't even want to think about the aftermath.
It's going to be a lot of cleanup. We're hoping that the river will crest on Wednesday and go down hopefully by Saturday or Sunday so that we can start cleaning up and getting people, back living in their homes that are underwater right now.
A command center has been set up and the Red Cross is helping out. Village officials say that they will meet later this afternoon to talk about future plans. In Gurnee, Frances Bragiel, CLTV News.
Down the river in the town of Des Plaines, the flood crest is expected to be even higher than in Gurnee. People there have been spending days now filling and stacking sandbags. They're being told to get their households prepared for a possible evacuation. By Wednesday night, the Des Plaines River could crest at 11 feet over flood stage. That would break the record set in 1986. A shelter is going to open this evening at the Prairie Lakes Community Center. It's for those who have to leave their homes in the next few days. The center will open up tonight after 7 o'clock.
This is ABC 7 News at 4.
Here's what's happening now. People in the northern suburbs have been battling rising waters from the Des Plaines River. This could be the worst flooding in 2 decades.
Good afternoon. I'm Alan Krashesky in for Joel Daly.
And I'm Linda Yu. Our top story on this day, people who enjoy the beautiful views of the Des Plaines River now are fighting to protect their homes. Heavy rain over the weekend forced the river over its banks, and now floodwaters are now threatening homes in suburban Gurnee as well as Des Plaines. Some people already have had to evacuate their homes. A number of roads have been closed. Today's school was even canceled for about 2,200 students in Gurnee. You're looking at a live picture right now from Chopper 7 that's flying over Gurnee. Already in some areas, obviously, they can only get around by canoe because the roads have been closed. I would imagine they're getting around there to warn people or to rescue people who can't get out of there because they obviously can't drive out of there anymore. ABC 7's Kevin Roy joins us live on the ground where there is some dry ground and begins our live coverage. Kevin?
Not much of it, unfortunately, Linda. Since we have been here, we have definitely seen the Des Plaines River rising today, creeping further south and now surrounding several more homes in its path. All around this part of Gurnee, you'll find many walls of sandbags like that one there, and hundreds of volunteers have been pitching in to help. These sandbags, though, do appear in some places to be making a tremendous difference. They may have peace like a river at the Gurnee Community Church, but it's a good thing they also have several sump pumps and a double wall of sandbags, holding back the floodwaters much better than the big flood of '86.
'86 was a really big flood, and the floodwaters were knee-high in most of the building here. The difference this time around is we had more advanced notice, so we're well prepared with sandbags, and we're keeping most of the water out. When some gets in, we pump it right back out.
The 1986 flood cost the church more than $100,000 in damage. As the waters keep rising, this flood is expected to be a record breaker, surpassing the '86 crest by 7 inches. Even so, the church and much of the rest of Gurnee appears to be better prepared to handle it. Volunteers got everything they could out yesterday.
So our damage is going to be the carpet and maybe some drywall, and that's about it. As opposed to, we lost furniture, we lost everything in '86. We were stupid in '86.
But there's little more they can do now, but wait it out and hope the crest comes sooner rather than later. 4 homes have been evacuated so far. Nearly 20 more are in jeopardy. Many roads, including stretches of Route 132, remain closed, and all Gurnee District 56 schools were closed today and will be tomorrow as well. 10th District Congressman Mark Kirk has called on the Great Lakes Naval Academy to pitch in. 200 sailors have been sandbagging.
The team was led by Petty Officer Alan Dementer, who just 2 weeks ago got back from Iraq, where he won the Bronze Star for Valor. He told me that he got caught up on his sleep and then volunteered to fill thousands of sandbags with his teams, and they so far have saved the school.
Congressman Kirk is referring there to the efforts to protect the Gurnee grade school. He's quite concerned about what will happen as all of this water travels downstream, down south, and hits towns like Des Plaines. And so he has called a meeting tonight of all the mayors in his district, along with state and federal officials, to discuss the emergency response plan. In the meantime, the crest here expected sometime in the next 24 to 48 hours, and everyone here hoping to God it doesn't rain anymore. Live in Gurnee, Kevin Roy, ABC 7 News. Alan, Linda.
Kevin, thank you very much, but it may do just that. Mike Caplan now is in the Weather Center.
Mike, I know you've been looking at the river levels now and also getting an idea as to when they're expected to crest, depending upon the location out there.
And we have some updated information on that. I know a lot of folks in Gurnee were expecting this to crest tomorrow, and if you haven't heard, that has been forestalled to at least Wednesday morning. I was in Gurnee this morning having breakfast. A lot of people asking me, when are you going to make the rain stop? Well, not yet. First of all, let's get the flood status on the Des Plaines River. In Gurnee, the current stage is 11.4 feet. That's 4.4 feet above flood stage. We are expecting it to crest at 12.7 feet, or nearly 6 feet above flood stage, a record level, and that is likely to take place Wednesday morning and remain well above flood stage for a couple of days. That is not adding all the rain that potentially could happen here overnight. Downstream, Des Plaines, the current level 6.8 feet, just under 2 feet above flood stage. We're forecasting a record crest there as well Thursday afternoon of 11.3 feet. Besting the previous record of 10.88 feet on October 1st of '86. A little bit farther downstream in Riverside, not as bad, still bad. 6.3 feet just above flood stage. Thursday afternoon, you're going to see a crest of 2.2 feet above flood stage, or 8.2 feet. Here is what we're expecting overnight tonight. A newly issued flood watch for all of the ABC 7 viewing area until 6 a.m. tomorrow. Another big cluster of thunderstorms, possibly moving out of Iowa, could dump anywhere from 1 to 3 inches of additional rainfall. The current thinking is the heaviest rains might fall across the southern suburbs, but this is a very dicey situation. Any additional rain is going to make things obviously worse here, but it looks like Wednesday through Thursday, Alan and Linda, the worst of the rain is going to be coming through. And I haven't even talked about the threat of severe storms. We'll talk more about that coming up in just a few minutes. So the flooding quite bad there on the Des Plaines.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, that's for sure, this week. I know, Mike, you'll be keeping us posted as we go on here. Let's talk about what you've just shown us a little bit, and that is the Des Plaines River, and that it's supposed to crest by late Wednesday or early Thursday in Lincolnshire now, I'm talking about. And certainly the people there are bracing for the worst. Hundreds of them have spent this past weekend. Look at this familiar scene here, filling up the sandbags. The river, of course, is expected to spill over its banks around that time. And at last count, they have more than 10,000 sandbags filled, ready to go. Many of them have already been distributed to flood-prone areas around the town. So far, though, the high water levels have only shut down one street, but that's just in Lincolnshire we're talking about. Now, ahead on our news at 4:30 today, we're going to be live in the city of Des Plaines itself for a look at the flooding and the damage there, as they are watching and waiting for it to get even worse as the week goes on.
I just wanted to see how much had gone up because it hasn't even crested yet. So I think we'll probably be okay because we're at the top of a hill, but we have some neighbors that'll probably be affected.
Well, unfortunately, Mike Caplan's been telling us that more rain is forecast for tonight as well as tomorrow.
So roadways are flooded, schools are closed. A few families already forced to leave their homes in that northwest suburb. Downtown Gurnee is already affected, as you can see in this live picture from Chopper 7. The Des Plaines River is expected to crest on Wednesday in Gurnee. Further south along the river, other towns are also preparing for that flooding. In Des Plaines, they also expect the river to crest later on this week, and that is where ABC 7's Phil Schwarz joins us live with an update. Phil?
Linda, Campground Road here in Des Plaines is always one of the first roads to flood, and as you can see behind me, obviously it is flooded. But the real story here is about to happen. The river is going to rise about 4.5 feet from where it is right now, meaning where I'm standing, the water will be about waist deep by Thursday afternoon, and that is going to just cause major flooding up and down the Des Plaines River. Sue McIntosh has lived in this Des Plaines neighborhood since the last great flood of 1986. Sue remembers in great detail how severe the flooding was nearly 18 years ago.
The water came as high as where I'm standing now, which means that entire street was filled up. The river now, you see the line of trees at the end, the river now is right up to the road.
The flooding this time around is expected to be even worse. The current stage of the Des Plaines River right here in Des Plaines is 6.7 feet. The record crest is 10.88 feet, and that was set back in 1986. But the forecast is for a crest of 11.3 feet by Thursday afternoon. Perhaps the only positive difference between this flood and the one in 86 is that the city and residents have had more time to prepare.
86, it kind of came upon us. This, we've got more time to prepare. Hopefully we'll be able to take advantage of that.
We're taking a freshly laid carpet tonight, moving all our furniture out, and other than that, just waiting.
There are now 13 sites throughout Des Plaines where residents can pick up sand and sandbags. In addition, volunteers will also be helping out.
Just like they've got in Gurnee, high school kids and Boy Scouts, and we've got 50 prisoners from the correction center coming over and helping us. They were here yesterday, they're here today, probably again tomorrow.
Now, in just the 2 hours that we've been in this location, we've been watching the water slowly rise from where we've been just a couple of hours ago. The water has risen just about 2 inches in the last 2 hours. Now, the city of Des Plaines will be opening up a shelter. It starts tonight at 7 o'clock for anybody who is displaced because of flooding. That will be at the Prairie Lake Community Center starting tonight. Obviously, the worst of the flooding is yet to come, with the crest not expected until sometime Thursday afternoon. Reporting live in Des Plaines, Phil Schwarz, ABC 7 News. Linda?
Phil, thank you very much. Trouble elsewhere, too. A state of emergency is in effect for people in southeastern Wisconsin after the Fox River in Kenosha County overflowed its banks over the weekend. The Silver Lake area is feeling the most effect. Homes and businesses are underwater. Many roads are already impassable because of the floodwater. That flooding came close to nearby Interstate 94, but has not yet affected traffic. As you can see, the Fox River is expected to crest sometime tomorrow, when it is expected to rise above 14 feet.
CBS 2 took a look at some flooded areas from a boat along the Des Plaines River. The water jumped already the banks and headed for the streets, homes, and businesses. Good evening, I'm Diane Burns.
I'm Antonio Mora. The spring flooding could wind up being the worst Gurnee has ever seen. Streets and schools are closed. Families have been evacuated. Our live team coverage continues here at 5. CBS 2's Steve Baskerville is on the scene and lets us know when residents may get a break. But we begin with Jon Duncanson, who spent the day touring the damage by boat. John, what have you seen?
Well, we've seen a lot, Antonio. Right now, we are standing on land, so to speak. But take a look. I mean, we're in the water. And from land, this is what you see. You've got Mike's Bikes over here, a lot of sandbags. This is a business. It's one of many over here. But if you step over here and you take a longer look, I want to point out this green awning down here. You see a barber shop, but you really can't get close to it. There's only one way to do that, and that is by boat.
The only way to see the worst damage, homes that are sitting surrounded by water like islands, is by boat and wearing hip waders. This part of downtown Gurnee has become Venice, buildings succumbing to the rising waters of the Des Plaines River. Front loaders carry the weight of sandbags to help the handful of residents who refuse to give up, give in, instead taking a hand from those giving help.
Doing okay. The house is holding its own right now. The pumps are keeping
enough water out of the basement that we can keep electrical, and as long as we can keep that going, we'll be okay.
Most of the homes in this part of town have been abandoned to the fate of the rising river. Some, though, are confident that with sandbags, with pumping, they can beat out a water table expected to rise another foot.
You have any worries at all? No. We got a second level. You go up high. Oh, yeah.
Right now we are over a community soccer field. We're about 400 yards off of the Des Plaines River. Still, right here you can see houses and neighborhoods that are feeling the effects of this water.
The Gurnee grade school is of major concern. For now, the sandbagging is expected to hold back the tide. The fear is that the water will come up from underneath, buckling the floors and collapsing the foundation. Transportation here is done best by something that floats. So far, help offered by fire rescue teams is finding confidence and resilience.
How are people doing?
Fine. They're fine. Good spirits. You know, they appear to be doing okay.
So far?
So far.
In some sense, there's a strange beauty to all this water, except that what the potential means to businesses, to neighbors, to a town.
It makes you want to cry. You know, this is
even though you're laughing.
Well, it's nervous laughter. You know, you got to laugh at it. I mean, if you sit here and complain and cry about it, you're not doing nothing. It's not helping anybody.
Now, surprisingly, and really to their credit, the very few people that have remained in their homes exhibit that kind of attitude. They're very upbeat. They believe they're going to beat the waters back, but then there are a lot of people who have just left, and from what we can understand, the sump pumps have given in because there's no more electricity for them. The remaining houses, the people who are here, do have that kind of electricity. And Antonio and Diane, it looks like it's going to crest sometime early Wednesday morning, and they're expecting it to go up another foot, so we'll have to wait and see what that bodes for the people who remain behind. It won't be another 5 days or so before the waters actually do recede, though.
All right, thank you, Jon. Jon Duncanson in Gurnee, and as Jon is saying, unfortunately things may get worse before they get better.
I won't get a lot of sleep around there. Steve Baskerville is also live in Gurnee, getting a first-hand look at the flooding. Steve.
Well, Diane, a lot of the concern now is what's going to happen with these big thunderstorms that are expected to rumble through here late tonight, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Try to get a sense of the situation now compared to the flood in 1986. Weather Service sources there, Jim Alsop, who has been on top of it, tells me that by midnight tonight, the river will be at a height of 11.9 or so, and that will exceed what happened back in 1986. So we don't even have to wait until Wednesday morning when it will crest. That situation will be here long before that. The other thing about the saturated ground is when is it going to start to shrink back to flood stage or even something lesser? It's expected, the rainfall estimate is that we'll get, even despite the fact we'll get the storms tonight, that by Saturday, hopefully we'll reach flood stage and then shortly thereafter below flood stage. So it will take at least 2 or 3 days of drying out. I want to give you, just so you know where I am, give you a sense of where I am. I'm right here at the Legion Post on Grand Avenue. Any other day you'd be able to walk right over to the hall. But we've got the sandbags there. We've got more sandbagging about to take place. You usually take the bridge over to downtown Gurnee. You can't even get there because of all the flooding that's between here and downtown. We'll have much more in a full weather forecast for Gurnee and other places a little bit later on. I'll see you then.
Okay, Steve Baskerville reporting live from Gurnee. Thank you. Well, the drama there in Gurnee has an impact on thousands of people who flock there every day and pump hundreds of thousands of dollars into the economy.
They are drawn there by 2 huge attractions, the Great America Amusement Park and Gurnee Mills Outlet Mall. They're not right next to the river, but the flooding could make getting to them a bit tricky. Kris Habermehl is live in Chopper 2, and he provides some perspective. Chris.
This is what it looks like just to the east of Great America, Diane and Antonio. This is downtown Gurnee, where Steve Baskerville was just reporting from, and across Route 21, there sits the employee parking lot. So the employees are going to be impacted because they have to drive through all of the alternate route traffic to try and get to work. So they'll have to leave extra early and will be getting home extra late. Now there is the Great America theme park. It's built up on kind of a ridge here, so it is well away from the flooding. And in the background you can see I-294, the major route to get into and out of Great America, and also Gurnee Mills. Now Great America is open every day, as it will be throughout the rest of the summer season, so that is going to be an important note. You're going to have to come in even off of I-294. There's Gurnee Mills off to the north and west of the flood zone. No problems whatsoever trying to get over to Gurnee Mills, but you're going to have extra traffic along Grand Avenue, especially if Route 120, which is starting to flood over right now, is eventually closed by authorities. And as you mentioned, Diane and Antonio, it may seem strange to profile such leisure time activities in the face of such devastation close by, but it's important to note the theme park and the mall are very important in bringing revenue into this now flood-damaged town, and they also employ many local residents, so every little bit helps. Diane and Antonio, back to you.
All right, thank you, Kris.
Residents who live near the Des Plaines River are bracing for more flooding. Officials in Gurnee designated 20 homes near the river for voluntary evacuations, and by this morning, 18 families had left. WGN's Marcella Raymond has the latest.
Yeah. 8-year-old Rodney Bolivar's grade school is being used as a daycare today, so he and his 9-year-old brother Riley came to help bag sand.
I'm holding the bags and he's shoveling and putting dirt in here.
Everywhere you look along the flooded Des Plaines River, there are sandbags. In some cases, they're the only things keeping the water out, and certainly not enough for some homes and businesses. 40 in all have been evacuated. The priority today for the town is keeping Washington Street from being flooded. It's the only east-west thoroughfare still open. Having to close it would severely hinder this flood operation.
County's helping us with that. I was out there at midnight last night, and even their top engineer was out there working sandbagging to try to help keep that road open. They were monitoring it all night.
At the Gurnee Community Church, members have been working all night as well, pumping out any water that seeps in. So far, it's working. The church has had little damage and is fairly dry. Gary Toller got a canoe ride home after his shift. How's it feel getting transported by a canoe?
It's kind of neat. It's a lot of fun. That makes the day when you can go home with your own personal chauffeur.
Several hundred people a day are working to keep this town from being submerged. Keeping their energy levels up to do that is also a big job. Food donations have been pouring in.
A gentleman went over to Sam's Club and bought two cases or two stacks of water and brought them over, which saved us from having to track it down, so it saved our necks for a while.
I'm WGN TV's Marcella Raymond reporting for CLTV News. The mayor of Northwest Suburban Des Plaines says 50,000 more sandbags will be distributed today to help protect homes and businesses along the river. Sandbags are becoming familiar lawn items for many homes here. A number of roads are flooded with water, and on Thursday the Des Plaines River is expected to crest to just over 11 feet. But for one man who's seen a lot of changes over the years, says he's turning headaches into optimism.
I'm 85. I'm going to be 85 years old. And everything that came up so far didn't bother me. I don't think it's going to bother me either, because if I don't like it, I'll get in my car and go.
What a great attitude. And yesterday, volunteers and residents filled 150,000 sandbags.
Other top story today, all eyes, of course, on the Des Plaines River. That river continuing to spill over its banks today. And as people are working around the clock trying to save their belongings, people in North Suburban Gurnee are actually getting some encouraging news today. The river is expected to crest later on tonight, and it should do so below what they were originally anticipating. ABC 7's Mike Caplan's live in Gurnee with more for us. Mike?
Well, Alan, as you know, this is my hometown, and this is as bad as I ever recall seeing it as a youngster. What looks like a river behind me is actually McClure Avenue. It's at the north end of Warren Township High School, completely covered with several feet of water tonight. And as you can see, several homes are being threatened, but most of the homeowners there are sticking it out and hoping for the best. We've had nearly 48 hours of dry, predominantly dry weather here in the Gurnee area, and that has improved the Des Plaines River forecast. Right now, the stage is at 11.62 feet, which is actually down about 1/10 of a foot since noon today. Hydrologists still expect it to crest right around the record mark of 12 feet later tonight. But even though that's less than expected, it is still going to take several days before Gurnee dries out. Boats and front-end loaders are still the best way to maneuver through the heart of Gurnee this afternoon. Much of Grand Avenue and Belvedere Road remain closed to traffic, with police ensuring no one gets too adventurous. Many businesses, like the popular Avalon restaurant, are closed as well.
What else can we do? You know, Mother Nature.
Owner Pete Seferis hopes he can reopen Thursday.
We want to thank you, the community and the volunteers, for the support they show us here these 2 difficult days that we're going through. You know, it's rough, but we'll survive it.
Pete's not the only one losing money at Avalon. So are the waitresses, cooks, and busboys. Still, they're keeping their losses in perspective.
Other people in the community have lost a whole lot. They've lost everything they've saved for, their houses probably, their basements, all their appliances, everything they have down there. So for us, for 2 days, that's not a great loss.
At flood-prone Gurnee Grade School, preventive measures seem to be working.
As of right now, we still don't have any water coming into the school, although we have some seepage going on.
Still, students will be taking the rest of this week off.
And then the kids will return to school next week starting on Tuesday. And we will hold classes on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Picot will be getting a tetanus shot and a boat ride tomorrow so she can retrieve documents from the school. Here's how Gurnee Mayor Don Rudney described the efforts in his town.
Incredible. I mean, you can see behind me, this is just an example of what's been going on since Saturday.
And they are still hard at work here, sandbagging as we speak. The next 12 hours critical here in Gurnee along the Des Plaines River. Reporting live in Gurnee, Mike Caplan, ABC 7 News. Linda Allen, back to you.
Mike, thanks very much. We have a reminder not to let children or pets play in those floodwaters. Not only is the water dirty, it also is carrying bacteria. Gasoline and waste is washing into those streets, which could then lead to hepatitis. There also occasionally are floating manhole covers, sharp objects, and you should also be aware that undercurrents are sometimes in that water. Now, our coverage of the suburban floods will continue in our 4:30 half hour. We will be going back live to Gurnee. ABC 7's Kevin Roy is there. He has talked with homeowners who are breathing a bit of a sigh of relief. And then also in our 4:30 half hour, Teresa Gutierrez takes us on a tour downstream in Des Plaines and hear why the mayor says that a levee there could have helped diminish the impact of these floods.
That is something that we've been seeing for a couple of days, and we're going to continue to be seeing the flooding.
And it is relief tonight, though, for people who live in Gurnee, but the people in Des Plaines still in for a rough couple of days. Our live team coverage continues. CBS 2's Joni Lum is in Des Plaines. We begin with Steve Baskerville in Gurnee, though. Steve, we now understand that the river crested there a few hours ago.
Diane, we did get some hopeful news because of that. Means that water is starting to recede, and big sigh of relief, especially for folks around Gurnee and the Storm Water Management Commission in particular. This is the spot around the Des Plaines River where you can notice such things. There's a telephone pole behind me. You can see that the water is showing signs of it decreasing somewhat. And it also is the area where the water flow system is housed, where you can get a sense of just how high and what stage the river is at. Now, just to show you how dramatically things have turned around within the last month, this graph will show you in particular how quick and how high the water rose, and that happened on the 21st of May and the 22nd of May. And what does that mean in particular? 2.5 inches of rain fell in just about 40 hours, a month's worth of rain in a short period of time to get us in the straits that we're in right now. What we need are a couple days without rain. That looks like it's going to happen. I'll have the full forecast and hopefully some more good news for you in just a little bit. Here's Antonio.
Steve, that graph told it all. Incredible to see how quickly the waters went up. Thanks. We'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Well, spring flooding is also a big problem in Des Plaines. Traveling down the river about 25 miles, residents of Des Plaines will have to deal with the high waters for at least 2 more days because the river won't crest there until Thursday. Our coverage continues with CBS 2's Joni Lum. Joni.
Antonio, that extra time is good because residents and business owners can prepare, but it also gives them time to think about all they might lose in what's going to be the worst flood in history here in Des Plaines. That's why they keep filling sandbags. They've gotten down to the bottom of this pile, but volunteers here scooping up those last grains because they need those sandbags. The volunteers have been working here for the last 2 days straight. They keep filling sandbags because just one home might need as many as 600 to weather the storm. Pumps ready. Flood experience has turned Des Plaines resident Deb Armstrong into somewhat of a civil engineer when it comes to protecting her home.
And we're going to put probably about 4 feet high, straight up to there, and then across here, because the water is coming right from the river toward us. But our first issue is to protect the basement.
She already spent hours moving everything out of the basement into her living room. Her pumps are standing by, ready to go.
We run them from the basement out my front door. But that means we have to berm this with sandbags, and then we put the water back out onto the street again.
Homeowners all along the Des Plaines River are using these dry days to do continuous backbreaking work. The mayor of Des Plaines says it's all worth it.
if we could just contain the water to our sidewalks, streets, and yards, I'll be a happy camper.
Mayor Arredia gave Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky a tour of the river region, including a stop at the unfinished storm drainage project he says could save all the homes on the east side of the river. It won't be completed until next spring. The Congresswoman says she will push the government to move on this project.
This is the 5th time that the river has had a 100-year flood. It's only supposed to be this high once every 100 years.
The river is still at the backyards of most of the houses here. We're in the Hawthorne Big Bend area, a peninsula that sits in the river bend. 1,000 homes could be damaged, and Antonio, as many as 250 homeowners might have to evacuate on Thursday.
They're working very hard. It's incredible to see how much work goes into this, filling up those sandbags. Thank you, Joni. Joni Lum in Des Plaines.
Live from Chicago, this is Fox News at 9.
The flooding in Gurnee takes a dangerous turn. Rescue teams searching for 2 children missing in those turbulent waters. While downstream in Des Plaines, homeowners and businesses brace for record high water. The flood of 04, first on Fox News tonight. Good evening, I'm Walter Jacobson.
And I'm Robin Robinson. It has been a long day for people living along the Des Plaines River in Gurnee and Des Plaines. We begin our coverage in Gurnee. Craig Wall is live there with the report. Craig.
Robin and Walter, for the past few days, the focus of concern here in Gurnee has been the safety of homes and businesses threatened by the rising Des Plaines River. But today, that focus shifted in dramatic fashion when authorities got reports of 2 teenage boys who went out for a joyride on the river in an inner tube or a raft, prompting an all-out rescue effort. Gurnee rescue crews shot ropes across the Des Plaines River as a safety net in case the 2 teens were still dangerously adrift in the rushing waters.
They lost control. They couldn't control the raft. Were floating coming down the river at quite a rate.
We're going to have to haul the boat. Right. A number of rescue boats were called out along with a police helicopter, but the fire department then got word a little later that the boys had somehow pulled themselves out somewhere. The chief called the rafters crazy and irresponsible.
Current is just moving so fast. Boats with motors are having difficulty in moving back and forth and up and down. Our rescue boats are having difficulty.
Meanwhile, homeowners and businesses continued to battle back the floodwaters. Encouraged by news, the river was not expected to rise any further. It was projected to crest at 11.6 feet, about half a foot lower than anticipated. But there were already signs, high water marks on trees, that the river was receding.
Depending on how long the water takes to go down, probably within the week we should be able to go back.
Some businesses like Brogan's Trophy Store were forced to evacuate at their busiest time of the year. The owners set up shop in a warehouse that a gracious business acquaintance let them use.
It's probably the worst time. May, June, and July are just killers. We have a couple, we do like the Lake County Fair, McHenry County Fair, and stuff like that. And yeah, it's a rough time.
But there is good news tonight. The official word on the river is that it crested at 4 p.m. today and has now begun to recede. So the expected levels are expected to reach by Friday sometime back below flood levels, which is great news for people. But about 20 homes or so had to be evacuated, and officials in Gurnee are saying that those people will not be allowed to go back into their homes until they are structurally inspected by the Engineering and Building Department, as well as have a safety inspection by the Lake County Department of Public Health. But tonight, with no rain and the waters receding, the community of Gurnee is feeling a little bit of relief. Live in Gurnee, Craig Wall, Fox News Chicago.
All right, Craig, thanks for that live report. And while, as you say, the floodwaters have crested in Gurnee, it is still a battle against the clock and a look to Mother Nature downstream in Des Plaines. People there have been filling sandbags all day as the Des Plaines River continues to rise. Des Plaines, of course, is downstream. It is south of Gurnee, so it's going to crest after a Gurnee did, which crested a little earlier than it was expected to, which was good news for people there. But in Des Plaines, the river is not expected to crest until Thursday. People there still doing everything they can to ward off the water. We continue our coverage with Lilia Chacon, who is in Des Plaines. Lilia, how's the mood there?
Robin, they are cautiously optimistic, and I'm in Des Plaines where
Camp McDonald Road ends and the Des Plaines River begins. This rain-swollen river has been jumping its banks, it's been forcing roads to be closed and threatening homes. And the residents are telling us the worst part is the flooding is getting more frequent. This will be the 5th 100-year flood since 1960.
We're bracing. We kind of know what's going to happen.
Up and down these riverside neighborhoods, you can hear the sound of sump pumps straining, shovels scraping, and sandbags being filled. Hold it open wide. More than 100 nonviolent offenders worked off their court sentences by helping residents fill bags.
I feel great helping. I feel sorry for everybody out there. I'm out of breath, though.
Flooding veterans were sandbagging doors and windows, garages and basements. Here on Shagbark Lake, residents even have an evacuation plan for a pair of nesting swans.
Personally, I'm not worried. I don't think this is going to happen.
Others were encouraged by a 2-inch drop in the water levels this afternoon.
Actually, there are a couple of them, the water's gone down.
But lawmakers say faith alone won't prevent flood damage. Des Plaines Mayor Tony Arredia showed Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky a levee project that's been stalled for years.
We've been waiting for this project since the early mid-'80s, and I've been involved in it for 7 years.
Now, there is currently a bill on the governor's desk that would create a regional stormwater management commission that would deal with flooding prevention up and down the Des Plaines River. In the meantime, the record floodwaters are expected to crest here sometime on Thursday. The mayor has an evacuation plan that he hopes he never has to implement. Live in Des Plaines, Lilia Chacon, Fox News, Chicago.
All right, Lilia, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And near the Des Plaines River tonight, there's a standing testimony to the great lengths people are going to fight the floods. A giant sandbag wall has been built to protect the residents. It's on River Road from Milwaukee Avenue to Camp McDonald Road. The U.S. Navy had about 300 people working on it. Then 100 volunteers got word of it and joined in to help. The wall is 4 feet high. It runs about 1 mile long. It is protecting about 3,000 people who live in Wheeling, Prospect Heights, and Mount Prospect.
You're looking live right now at a major sandbagging effort in Mount Prospect, a wall designed to keep rising floodwaters at bay. Complete team coverage for you from across the area next.
Live from Chicago's NBC5, this is NBC5 News at 10.
It's a scene being played up and down the Des Plaines River tonight. Flooded out homes, river rescues, and shovels filling sandbags, and there's still more to come. Good evening. I'm Warner Saunders.
And I'm Allison Rosati. Tonight we take you along the Des Plaines River from Gurnee to Mount Prospect. The river is expected to crest there soon. Our team coverage begins tonight with NBC5's Don Lemon. Don?
Allison and Warner, we begin here on River Road where you can see hundreds of volunteers have erected this sandbag wall. Here's the problem. They're trying to keep the Des Plaines River from overflowing its banks. There the river is right there and going right into these people's backyards. Just beyond the Litex backyard is a rapidly swelling Des Plaines River, threatening to destroy what's taken years to acquire.
Well, when you think about all your belongings that you have in your house and what you've worked for all your life, and it can be gone in a matter of I don't know how many hours.
This is your backyard.
That's the backyard. Here as it got worse up to my patio, and here's me still in a rowboat because we couldn't walk. Boat that we used.
You can't stop it. All you can do is do as much as you can.
Dad, Nick Litek, is on the front line with thousands of other volunteers.
And I'm really surprised, I mean, how many people showed up and from all over the place, not just from this area here. It's a good feeling.
We won't lose this fight. Our crew out here. We're standing now on top of this wall. This wall is about 3.5 feet high. It goes on from Camp McDonald Road from behind me to in front of me, which is McDonald Road, which is about a half mile long. So they've been out here for about 2 days doing this. I just spoke to the village engineer just a short time ago. He said he received some encouraging news from the National Weather Service. He's being told that the Des Plaines River is going to crest a little bit lower than expected. And for more on that, right here in Mount Prospect is also our Brent Miller. Brent, take it away.
And Don, as you pointed out, that is some very good news. We're going to see the crest here instead of forecast at 11 feet.
9 feet. That'll come on Friday morning. The river now is at 7 and some change. We prepared a graphic to show you what's going on up and down the floodplain here. As I step out of the way, we have another Bobcat with a load of sandbags moving down River Road here. Let's start off as we zoom into Lake County and give you an idea of what we're looking at here. We'll get a little closer in Lake County and show you Gurnee. And there is the current flood stage. It crested this afternoon at 11.6 feet. It's now at 11.5, and the river is going down. Now, let's go downstream, give you an idea of some of the other communities being impacted. As we head down the Fox River, Des Plaines River, the Fox River is also high at this point. You can see as we move on down the floodplain area, all along the Des Plaines River is being inundated. And then you get, there's Pelwaukee Airport, just north of us there. There's Willow Road, and now at Des Plaines we're looking at a current flood of 7.73 inches, expected now to crest at around 9 feet, and that 9-foot stage is Friday morning. So that's some very good news. We'll show you the measurement out here and talk with the village manager of Mount Prospect in just a few minutes. Back to you, Warner. Allison.
All right, thank you, Brent.
Now we head north to Gurnee, where dive crews have been busy making rescues tonight. NBC5's Amy Jacobson is live there. Amy?
Warner, even though the water level has dropped, the current is still very strong. Just take a look and see this buoy. It just whips downstream. And tonight, 2 kids were stuck in an inner tube. Another 2 had to be rescued off their bikes. When the call comes out of 2 kids missing, we were already with the dive and rescue team. The Gurnee Police Department helicopter overhead. You can see how the current just pulls our boat into large trees.
We can't keep going forward.
I'm not trying to go forward, Kirk. It's the current taking us forward.
The 2 kids made it out on their own, but they didn't call police, inadvertently putting the lives of rescue workers in danger.
If somebody does go in the water and they get themselves out there, they would be a big help to any service to the departments by explaining themselves, saying, listen, I fell in the water, I'm out, I'm okay. Not put anybody else in danger.
Earlier today, a teenage boy was riding his bike down Route 132, and the current was so strong that his bike was slammed against that guardrail. He had to be rescued. Tonight, the river crested a few inches below the record level set back in 1986. Many businesses still under 4 feet of water. Brogan trophies washed up. The barber shop closed. It has been a fixture here since 1949, and the owner, Larry, has a heavy heart when he looks at all the damage that's been done.
It's my whole life. I raised my kids in this town, and they grew up in this shop, and so it's everything.
Now, even though the river is receding, it is down an entire inch since our 6 o'clock newscast. The mayor is still urging homeowners not to go back in until their building has been inspected, but some are not heeding that warning. Here with that part of the story is Marion Brooks. Marion?
Well, you know how that is, Amy. That's absolutely right. About 39 homes have been affected by the flood here in Gurnee, and at least 20 folks have been asked to evacuate their houses. But some say they just can't do it because their home is too great an investment to leave. Elmer Fallas' basement is flooded. He's in the house closest to the Des Plaines River in Gurnee, and he's not leaving.
I'll go down with the ship if I have to.
Really?
Yeah.
About a half-mile away from the river, the Fromans have taken every precaution and stacked everything from their basement upstairs. And I do mean everything.
We called everybody that we could find, and everybody showed up on our doorstep. Family, friends, everybody came to our rescue like that.
The support is awesome. That's like the only thing that keeps you going in a situation like this.
This is a fighting, hard-working community whose volunteer efforts produced hundreds, perhaps thousands of sandbags and helped to open Route 120 faster and helped to keep the Des Plaines River from taking over this elementary school.
People just came out in droves. We had, I believe on Saturday we had about 300 volunteers. On Sunday it was like 200. So the effort here has just been tremendous, and it's good to see.
Yeah, that effort really has been something to see for all the folks that have come out here. As for that elementary school, they do expect to have it back open by Tuesday. Now, the high school here, Warren Township High School, they hope to have open by Friday so that the students can review for their final exams, which are coming up next week. Live in Gurnee, Marion Brooks, NBC5 News.
Thank you, Marion.
Let's head back now to Brent Miller in Mount Prospect with more on efforts there. Brent?
And Allison, I'm with Mike Janonis, who's the village manager here at Mount Prospect. Mike, that's some good news to hear that crest is expected to be 9 instead of 11 feet.
That sure is. We went through this 18 years ago with a lot of devastation. We came prepared this year, and as you can see, we put up quite a fight here, and I think the best break we're going to get is Mother Nature.
And you know, the fact that it hasn't rained, and it looks like the rain's coming perhaps late Thursday. So we're getting an aerial view now of the whole situation here along River Road. And this is really a community effort. All the kids from Frost School are out here. My 16-year-old son came along. He's out there sandbagging. It's a community spirit it's overwhelming.
It is. We've had several hundred volunteers each of the last 2 nights. As you said, several of the schools have showed up. Hersey High School. We got help from Great Lakes Naval Academy with some trainees, and it's just been a tremendous effort.
Mike, it looks like the tide may be turning here for you in Mount Prospect.
I sure hope so.
All right, back to you, Warner. Allison, thank you.
All right, thank you. Sometimes the worst of times brings out the best in people.
Sure does.
And same situation going on in Des Plaines. Residents there sandbagging around the clock as they have been since Monday. There have been plenty of comparisons with the devastating flood of 1986. Now, countywide, that flood caused about $100 million in damages.